Hey everybody, Brian Von Vie here, back at it again with another D&D story. Today we have The Fallen Guardian Chronicles, Book 1. For most of my life, I've known exactly where I was going. I knew it when I grew up, I knew it when I joined the army, I knew it when I left my mother and my home behind. I knew it with every step I took, with every fist I swung, and every bruise I took. It was always a clear goal. Become a royal guard. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. It wasn't easy. It wasn't going to happen overnight, but it was a clear goal, and I knew that if I could prove myself, I'd get there in the end. These days, I'm not so certain where I'm going anymore. I remember Captain Cavall telling me once that when he's out of his depth, he would sit down and write down what had happened. Keep a journal on what went on around him. He said it gave him a good view of the whole picture, a different perspective. So, if it works for him, maybe it'll do something for me. I haven't kept a journal before though, so there's a lot to catch up with. I figure I might as well start from the very start. My name is Cedric. That's it. No middle names, no surname. That tends to be the case when you're born a bastard with no clue as to who the father is. I was born in Carstinia, to a mother named Margaret, and, as I said, a father I don't know. Mother never spoke about him, and I didn't ask often unless I wanted to get my ears twisted about. She wasn't a violent woman, mind you, and I'd rather take a bite out of my boots than call her a bad mother. Gods, living and dead alike, know I need a sledgehammer to beat the sense into my skull sometimes. But my father was a sore subject, and one she didn't wish to speak about. I grew up near the great castle of Carstinian Throne, which might surprise most who find out about that. I wasn't a noble, far from it. My mother was a maid, kept the halls clean, and helped wash the clothes of the other servants. I just happened to grow up there because we both lived in the servants' quarters. Of course, growing up in a castle and being a bastard wasn't a good mix for making friends in my experience. The sons and daughters of the noble houses are either too good to talk to dirty peasant rabble, or they quickly learn to act like it when their parents find out. The kids in the city, meanwhile, spit on you and call you a noble prick, getting spoiled by the rich and powerful. It might not be too big of a surprise, then, that most of my childhood, when I wasn't being put to work carrying water or bags of grain about, was spent with animals. Not the pleasant sort either. We weren't important enough to be allowed a dog, no matter how much I begged, nor were we well off enough to keep one fed. So instead, I found excuses to go rat hunting whenever the kitchen found one skulking about the larders. I got quite good at catching them, though I suppose that's a given when you can just tell the rat that you won't actually hurt it. I should probably explain that part, but I'll get to that. For now, all you need to know is that I can talk to some animals, rats being one of them. I should probably also mention that I'm no elf or druid or the like, so clearly the ability to talk to animals isn't exactly common. My mother was human, I'm human, and for all I know, my father was at least mostly human. Either way, I got a reputation for being good at catching rats, and that was all well and good up until the point when the head chef started noticing grain going missing anyway. I'm still not sure how he managed to figure it out, but the man barged in on me while I was feeding one of the rats off in the stables, grabbed me by the neck, and gave me a beating that made sure I wasn't good for anything but carrying buckets of water for the next few weeks, and crushed that rat's head under his boot. I didn't catch many rats after that, so that was most of my childhood until I was old enough to join the army, specifically the city guard. See, there's been one dream in my mind since as long as I can remember. Carstinia is known for having a tough-as-nails military force, and none of them were supposed to be as well-trained, honorable, or prestigious as the royal guards. So, of course, being a bit of a meathead, I figured I'd find a way to join them one way or another. One thing I didn't realize back then, however, is just how petty those royal guardsmen can really be. They won't just accept anyone into their ranks, which is to be expected. What they don't tell you is that one of the main things they judge is your birth. Turns out they didn't quite like the idea of the bastard of a mere low-born servant joining their ranks and sullying their good names. But I was a stubborn bastard, and I made up my mind. That's when I met the captain, Marcus Cavall. If you hadn't heard of him, you're either deaf or from the wrong end of Aetheris. He might be old enough to have seen your father waddle about as a toddler, but the man is a war hero, and even more stubborn than I am. He gave up retirement to train us rookies into a force that's worth the Carstinian banners, and he did it well. I think he saw something special in me, though until recently I hadn't the faintest clue as to what. Now I'm more worried that he might have the wrong part. He taught me loyalty, control, and most important of all, discipline. He would say it didn't matter what your superior tells you to do, you follow orders to the last and question it later. I know I'm not doing his words any justice, because that just made him sound like a blind idiot, and he's nothing of the sort. I can't remember the exact words, but I remember him saying that when we're heading straight towards a mountain of shit, it's better that we stand together, do as we're told, and stand a chance at ramming through it, rather than break apart and get stuck in the muck because we were too divided. Neither are particularly fun ideas, but at least one of them is better than the other. He also taught me how to keep my anger in check. Given my colorful childhood, if only ever having rats as friends, I don't suppose it's too surprising that I grew up with my fair share of problems, anger being one of them. But Cavall taught me to keep that anger in a cage, and only ever let it out when it's needed. Anyway, I'm not going to go into detail because I've already rambled on too much. Did say there was a lot to catch up to. I kept at it for a few years, trained under Cavall most days of the week. Actually managed to make a few friends within the squad, got a chance to prove myself to the Royal Guard, and took it. Apparently I did well enough that they couldn't say no, even with my bastard blood. So they did the next best thing they could. They exiled me. Now, I know what you might be thinking, reading that. Why, by the dead gods, would they exile me for being too good for them to say no? Well, it wasn't officially an exile. Not for me in any case. Turns out it was the crown prince himself, Balthazar of Carstinia, who got exiled, and they put me to work straight away by assigning me as his personal guard while he was out. Apparently there had been rumors going about at court that Balthazar wasn't actually the true heir to the throne. Something about him secretly being a bastard, like me. So they sent him out on his way to find proof of his legitimacy, and I suppose it was just too good an opportunity to rub it in not to send the recently promoted bastard of the Royal Guard to keep him safe. I know a good guard isn't supposed to talk about the royal family behind their backs, but Balthazar was a snarky piece of ass with a stick rammed a few inches too far into it. I was never a smart man to begin with, but traveling with him made it feel like I'd managed to be born with less than half a brain, and he made sure to rub it in each and every time I got confused or failed to understand something. But I kept it in, didn't talk back too much, and did my job. I might have been exiled and all, but name with this prick, but I figured I might as well do my job properly while I'm at it. So we went south to Blackspire, at the very southern edge of Aetheris. Not sure what we expected to find down there, but given how close to the Veil the place is, I'm not surprised just how bad things were. Most of the city seemed to have just fallen into the earth, with big chasms cutting straight through walls and houses alike. There was still plenty of city left, but even that was abandoned. Of the 100-odd houses we saw on our way in, about a dozen were still in use. The rest were boarded up or just left to fall apart. The only part of the city that didn't seem to have fallen into the earth was the manor at the center of Ravensholm. The walls, the gardens, and the manor itself were completely unscathed, if you don't count the unusual falling apart because of time. Turns out the whole city had just gone and broken apart after the local count got himself assassinated by his own son, and after the treacherous bastard left, monsters started crawling out of the chasms. Hollows, they call them. Looks human enough at a glance, but you don't mistake them for long. Pitch black flesh, big white balls for eyes, prone to climb around on walls like overgrown spiders. And they're stealthy and quiet enough to get within inches before you notice them. Then their claws make short work of you. Got so bad, in fact, that the survivors opened the local stockades as a tavern, because those iron cells were the only thing capable of keeping the hollows out if you didn't have a proper house to hide in, And even then, there wasn't a guarantee. We met a man there, a weird one, named Emmett. He gave us a tour of the place, pointed out some shops that were still open, introduced us to Antimus, the man who ran the stockades. We spent our first night there, and I, for one, slept like a rock, peacefully as only a man can when getting to rest in a proper bed after 6 months on the road. Which is why waking up to find one of the cells open and stained with blood wasn't the most reassuring of things. Apparently a hollow had gotten in, and none of us heard a damned thing. The prince asked around and found that the man inside had been rambling about his family being out there, that he'd seen his wife in the dark. A madman, really. They think the guy somehow thought Hollow was his dead wife or something of the like, because the door had been left unlocked and open. No signs of struggle, save for the blood. I thought he was just a poor fool who broke when his home fell into the ground. Now that I know what those things were, it's not something I like to think about. But I know that thing wasn't his wife anymore, if it ever were. Hey everyone, Brian Von VA here, back at it again to check in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and ring that bell to get notified whenever we post or possibly go live on this channel. And of course, check out our main channel, Mr. Ripper, and head on over to r/Mr. Ripper to leave a story like this for us to read live or in a video. Never know if we will. And of course, make sure to check out me, Brian Von VA, on Twitch and YouTube. Links are all in the description below. Thank you guys and gals and non-binary pals for always being here, and thank you for being you. I just wanted to say, very bluntly, at the end of these videos, I don't really say a whole lot anymore because I want to try to keep it short for everybody, so you guys don't have to hear a giant string of stuff. But I wanted to mention one time, just one time, how proud I am of all of you. Because I really am. I get messages daily now from people saying how happy I've made them just with my narrations. So I'm glad that we can have such a big impact, that I can have an impact on all of you too. So all the love to everybody out there listening in and who made it this far, please stay being you. Be the best you can be. Who cares how hard it is? Who cares how bad this world is? We love you for it. And I always want to hear from you. So thank you guys and gals for being out there. We will be back next time. Stay frosty, stay safe. We'll see you later. Bye for now.